Brock isn't just the guy who flirts with every woman in sight. Everyone remembers that part, the running gag, where he falls head over heels for every Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny, where Misty or Max has to literally drag him away before he makes a fool of himself. But that's not what Brock actually does in the group. And once you see his real role, you'll realize that Ash's entire journey would have collapsed within a week without him. Here's what I need you to understand. There's a reason Brock stayed with Ash longer than any other companion in the entire series. It's not because he's the comic relief, and it's not because he needed Ash's help with anything. It's because Ash literally could not survive without Brock playing a role that nobody talks about, but everyone depends on. I'm going to show you exactly what that role is, and by the end of this video, you'll never see Brock the same way again. Because what looks like a simple traveling companion is actually something much more important and much sadder. Let's start with the obvious stuff that everyone notices but nobody really thinks about. Brock cooks every meal. He sets up camp every night. He keeps track of the map and makes sure the group is heading in the right direction. He handles the money and budgeting. He maintains all their equipment and makes sure everyone's Pokemon are healthy between Pokemon Center visits. Now you might be thinking, okay, so Brock does a lot of chores, so what? But here's what I realized when I actually sat down and counted. In the original series, there are maybe 3 episodes where we see Ash or Misty preparing food. 3 out of hundreds of episodes. Every other time, it's Brock. And it's not just cooking. Watch what happens in any episode where the group needs to make a decision about where to go next, or how to handle a problem, or what to do when they're running low on supplies. Ash and Misty will argue about it, get frustrated, maybe even start fighting. And then Brock steps in with a calm, practical solution that usually involves him doing extra work so the other 2 don't have to. He's not making suggestions or offering help, he's managing them. Like children. Because that's exactly what they are. And that's exactly what Brock has been trained to do his entire life. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because to understand Brock's role in the group, you first need to understand what his life was like before he ever met Ash. And this is where the story gets really sad. Brock didn't choose to become a caretaker, he was forced into it. His father abandoned the family to pursue his own Pokemon training dreams, leaving Brock's mother to care for 10 children on her own. And when she couldn't handle it and eventually left too, guess who got stuck with all the responsibility? Brock. The oldest child, barely a teenager himself, suddenly responsible for 9 younger siblings. Think about what that actually means. Brock didn't have a childhood. He didn't get to be carefree or make mistakes or focus on his own dreams. Every day was about making sure his siblings were fed, clothed, healthy, and safe. He learned to cook because someone had to feed them. He learned about Pokemon medicine because he couldn't afford to take them to a Pokemon Center every time something went wrong. He learned to budget and plan because if he didn't, his family would fall apart. The anime shows us this in flashbacks, but it never really dwells on how messed up this situation is. A child raising 9 other children because both parents abandoned them. And Brock just does it. He doesn't complain, he doesn't break down, he just becomes the parent these kids need because there's no other option. Now here's the part that most fans don't think about. What happens to a person who spends their formative years in that role? What does it do to someone when their entire identity becomes the person who takes care of everyone else? It means they never learn how to stop. It means that even when they're supposedly free from that responsibility, even when they're on their own journey pursuing their own dreams, they automatically fall back into that caretaker role because it's the only way they know how to relate to other people. When Brock leaves Pewter City to travel with Ash, everyone acts like it's this great moment of liberation. Finally, Brock gets to pursue his own dream of becoming a Pokemon breeder. Finally, he's free from the burden of caring for his siblings. Finally, he gets to be his own person. Except that's not what happens at all. Watch the very first episode where Brock joins the group. Within hours, minus literally hours, he's already cooking for Ash and Misty, planning their route, and making sure everyone's taken care of. He didn't escape the caretaker role, he just transferred it to a new set of people who needed him. And here's what makes this even sadder. Brock probably doesn't even realize he's doing it. This isn't a conscious choice to be helpful, this is who he is at his core. Someone who sees people struggling and automatically steps in to fix it, because that's what he's always done, because that's the only way he knows how to be valuable. Think about Brock's dream for a second. He wants to be a Pokemon breeder, someone who takes care of Pokemon, who nurtures them, who helps them grow. Even his actual dream job is just a formalized version of the caretaker role he's been playing his whole life. He can't imagine being anything else. Now let's talk about what this means for Ash and Misty, because this is where Brock's role becomes absolutely critical to the entire series. Ash is 10 years old when he starts his journey. 10. He's impulsive, reckless, and has virtually no life skills beyond battling. The anime plays this for comedy. Oh look, Ash is trying to cook and it's a disaster. Oh look, Ash got them lost again because he can't read a map. But stop and think about what would actually happen if Ash was traveling alone or just with Misty. He would starve. I'm not exaggerating. Ash has no idea how to prepare food, no understanding of nutrition, no ability to budget money for supplies. In the episodes where Brock isn't around, Ash either eats terrible food that Misty tries to make, or they just don't eat at all until they reach the next town. And that's just the food issue. What about navigation? Ash has a terrible sense of direction and no patience for planning routes. Without Brock, he'd wander in circles, waste time backtracking, and probably miss half the gym battles because he couldn't figure out how to get to the next city. What about money management? Ash spends impulsively and has no concept of saving for emergencies. Brock is the one who makes sure they have enough money for Pokemon centers, for supplies, for unexpected expenses. Without him, Ash would blow through his funds in a week and end up stranded. But here's what really gets me. Brock handles all of this invisibly. He doesn't make a big deal about it. He doesn't demand recognition. He just quietly does what needs to be done so Ash can focus on being the protagonist. It's emotional labor in its purest form, essential work that goes completely unacknowledged because it's supposed to be invisible. And Misty, she's better than Ash at practical stuff, but she's also a kid dealing with her own issues. She's got that temper, that need to prove herself, that tendency to get into arguments over nothing. Without Brock's stabilizing presence, without someone who can diffuse situations and mediate conflicts, Ash and Misty would have driven each other crazy and split up within a month. Brock provides what I call dad energy to the group. He's not their friend, not really. He's the parent figure who makes sure everyone's basic needs are met so they can go have their adventures and deal with their emotional drama. He's the adult in a group of children, even though he's barely older than them himself. There's this pattern that happens in almost every episode, and once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Ash or Misty will get into some kind of trouble. They'll fight with each other, make an impulsive decision, get upset about something, and Brock will just handle it. He'll calm them down, feed them, remind them of the bigger picture, and gently guide them back on track. He's not bossy about it. He's not controlling. He just creates this stable foundation that allows Ash and Misty to be kids, to be impulsive and emotional and make mistakes, because he's there to catch them when they fall. And here's the really messed up part. Brock never asks for anything in return. He never demands that Ash help him with his Pokemon breeder dreams. He never insists that they take detours for his benefit. He never even asks for acknowledgement of everything he does. He just gives and gives and gives because that's what caretakers do. And he's been conditioned to believe that his value comes from how well he can serve others' needs. Think about Brock's running gag with Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny. On the surface, it's just comedy. Brock falls in love instantly, makes a fool of himself, gets dragged away. But look deeper at what's actually happening in those moments. Brock is attracted to women in caretaker professions, nurses who heal, officers who protect. These are people whose entire identity is built around taking care of others, just like him. He's not just attracted to pretty women, he's attracted to people who reflect his own role, people who might understand what it means to constantly put others first. And every single time he gets rejected or pulled away before he can make a real connection. It's played for laughs, but it's actually kind of tragic. Brock is desperate for someone who sees him, who values him for more than just what he can do for them. But he never finds that person because he never stops playing the caretaker role long enough to be seen as anything else. There are a few episodes where the anime comes close to acknowledging this. Moments where Brock's dream is actually the focus, where he gets to work with Pokemon breeders or learn new skills. And you know what happens in those episodes? Ash and Misty fall apart without him. They can't function, they get into trouble, and Brock has to abandon his own pursuits to come save them. The anime frames this as heartwarming. Look how much they need each other, look how important their friendship is. But it's actually kind of disturbing when you think about it. Brock can never fully pursue his own dreams because other people literally cannot survive without him playing the caretaker role. He's trapped. Not by force, not by any explicit obligation, but by the simple fact that he's made himself so essential to others' survival that walking away would mean watching them fail. And Brock, who spent his whole life keeping people from failing, could never do that. Here's what really gets me. The anime never forces Brock to confront this. There's never an episode where he breaks down and admits that he's exhausted, that he wants someone to take care of him for once, that he's tired of always being the responsible one. He just keeps going, keeps serving, keeps sacrificing his own needs because that's what the group requires and that's who he is. And maybe that's realistic. Maybe people who fall into caretaker roles that young never really escape them, even when they want to. Maybe Brock's story is about learning to find fulfillment within that role rather than breaking free from it. But man, that's a heavy message for a kid's show to be sending, even if it's accidental. Think about what the series would actually look like without Brock. Ash wouldn't just struggle, his journey would end, he'd run out of money, get hopelessly lost, probably get sick from malnutrition or unsafe food. Team Rocket would have caught Pikachu a dozen times over because Ash would be too disorganized and unprepared to effectively counter them. The entire narrative only works because Brock is there providing invisible support. He's not the sidekick, he's not the comic relief. He's the foundation that the entire show is built on, and nobody, not the characters, not most viewers, maybe not even the writers, fully acknowledges that. Brock is the most important character in the original Pokemon anime, and his importance comes from being so good at his role that everyone forgets he's playing one. That's the real tragedy. Not that he's stuck being a caretaker, but that he's so effective at it that his own needs become invisible. So yeah, Brock flirts with every Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny, but maybe that's not just a gag. Maybe it's a desperate attempt to be seen as something other than the guy who keeps everyone else alive. Maybe it's the one moment where he tries to exist outside of his role, even though it never works, even though he always gets pulled back into being the caretaker the group needs him to be. Without Brock, Ash's journey doesn't just get harder, it becomes impossible. He's not just the glue holding the team together, he's the entire foundation. He's the parent, the planner, the provider, and the person who makes sure everyone else gets to be the hero while he stays in the background making it all possible. And the saddest part, he probably thinks that's all he's good for, because when you spend your whole life being valued only for what you can do for others, it becomes impossible to imagine being valued for who you actually are. Do you think Brock ever got to truly pursue his own dreams, or was he always stuck in that caretaker role? Have you ever noticed how much work he does in the background? Or did it just feel normal? Let me know in the comments because I'm curious if other people picked up on this or if we all just accepted Brock's sacrifice without really thinking about it. Well, stick around for the best Pokemon channel that exists, I guess. I mean, probably anyways.